always thought turning 62 would be peaceful. Maybe a quiet dinner, a few laughs with my son, and a chance to feel young again for a night. I never expected it to become the moment my entire world tilted sideways. My name is Charlotte Monroe, and the night I almost died started beautifully. Right up until the waitress slipped me a tiny folded note that changed everything. My son, Daniel, had taken me to La Terra Rosa, a cozy Italian restaurant we'd been visiting for years. Candlelit tables, warm chatter, the smell of roasted garlic. Everything felt familiar and safe. His wife, Vanessa, sat across from me, all flawless makeup and stretched smiles. I used to tell myself that her stiffness came from nerves, but deep down, I had always sensed something colder beneath the surface. Daniel ordered their house red wine to celebrate. "Mom, you look happier than I've seen you in months," he said as he poured. I believed him. Despite some recent dizziness and fatigue, I'd been trying to enjoy life more. Vanessa lifted her glass. "To Charlotte," she said, with a voice that sounded sweet but felt sharp. Just as I raised my glass, a waitress I'd never seen before, young, dark curls, nervous eyes, brushed past our table and placed what looked like a folded napkin near my plate. Smooth. Too smooth. Like she'd practiced. She didn't even look at Daniel or Vanessa, only at me, with a tightness in her expression that made my stomach twist. I waited until my son was distracted asking for extra breadsticks. Then, under the table, I unfolded the note. "Don't drink from your glass. Please trust me. Your life is at risk." My heart seized. I read it again. The words didn't change. My first instinct was disbelief. A prank? A mistake? But when I glanced up, Vanessa wasn't admiring the decor or smiling at Daniel. She was staring at my wine glass, watching it, almost waiting. Something in me went cold. I excused myself to the restroom, pretending my shoe was uncomfortable, clutching the note so hard it crumpled. Inside the bathroom, my hands shook. I didn't know the waitress. I didn't understand what she meant. But something inside me whispered, "Listen to her." When I returned, the conversation carried on as if nothing had happened. Vanessa looked at me too quickly, her posture too alert. That was when I made a decision in the span of a heartbeat. The moment Daniel turned to speak with the server, I swapped my wine glass with Vanessa's. A casual, swift motion, years of motherly sleight of hand paying off. "To family," I said, lifting the glass that was now unquestionably safe. Daniel smiled warmly. Vanessa hesitated, but she followed through, sipping from the glass she believed was mine. 5 minutes later, her fork slipped from her fingers. She pressed her palm to her stomach, whispering, "Something's wrong. I feel dizzy." Her face drained of color, her body trembled, and as panic exploded in the restaurant, I realized the horrifying truth. Whatever had been meant for me had just begun working inside her. But this was only the beginning, and the waitress, the stranger who tried to save me, was about to reveal a secret that would rip apart the life I thought I understood. But what I didn't know yet was that this poisoning wasn't a sudden act. It was the final step in a plan that had been building for months, and I was never supposed to survive past that night.
La Terra Rosa emptied out in pure chaos, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. Vanessa slumped sideways in her chair as Daniel begged her to stay awake. The paramedics rushed in and worked quickly, but her skin had already turned a sickly shade of gray. I stood there, frozen, holding the note the waitress had given me like a lifeline. No one else knew it existed. No one else knew the truth. "Mom, help me get her up," Daniel cried. I snapped back to reality, grabbing Vanessa's arm, steadying her trembling body as the paramedics loaded her onto the stretcher. Her head lolled backward, her lips pale and dry. When one of the medics checked her pulse, I could see the alarm in his eyes, even though he tried to hide it. "What happened to her?" he asked. "She just collapsed," Daniel said. "She said her stomach hurt. She was shaking." He looked at me too, waiting for an explanation. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I couldn't tell him, not until I understood more myself. The ride to St. Bridget Medical Center was a blur. The sirens wailed as I sat beside my son, gripping his hand while he tried not to break apart. I hated the pain on his face, but a cold truth gnawed at me. If I hadn't switched those glasses, it would be me fighting for my life right now. Inside the hospital, they rushed Vanessa into a critical care unit. Daniel paced nonstop while I sank into a stiff plastic chair, clutching the warning note. After nearly an hour, a doctor in blue scrubs approached us. His expression was grim in a way that instantly punched the air out of my lungs. "Mr. Monroe? Mrs. Monroe?" "Yes," Daniel said. "Is my wife okay? What happened?" "She's stable, barely. But what concerns us most is what we found in her blood work. Your wife has extremely high levels of digitalin, a cardiac medication." Daniel frowned. "Cardiac medication? Vanessa, she doesn't take anything like that." The doctor shook his head. "This is not an accidental exposure. The concentration we found, it's enough to cause severe heart failure, especially combined with alcohol." A chill ran through my entire body. "Alcohol," I echoed softly. Daniel turned towards me slowly, sensing something. "Mom, are you thinking?" My fingers tightened around the note. "Doctor," I said, "could someone put digitalin in a drink?" "Easily. It dissolves quickly. It leaves almost no taste." Daniel inhaled sharply. "Are you suggesting someone poisoned her?" I took a shaky breath and finally unfolded the note, passing it to the doctor and my son. Daniel read it once, twice, then stared at me with disbelief. "Where did this come from?" he whispered. Quietly, I told him everything. The waitress, her urgent expression, the moment I switched the glasses, every detail. Daniel sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "Oh my God, Mom, someone was trying to kill you." The doctor stood silent for a moment, absorbing the story. "He'll need to run blood tests on you as well, Mrs. Monroe, and I'm obligated to alert law enforcement immediately." As he walked away, Daniel turned to me with haunted eyes. "Mom, do you think Vanessa was poisoned accidentally, or—" "No," my voice cracked. "Daniel, she was watching my glass." He stared at the floor, breathing hard, trying to deny what he already knew. He finally whispered, "Then who would want you dead?" I didn't have an answer yet, but someone had spent time, maybe months, planning this moment. And as the police stepped into the room to question me, I had no idea that the truth would twist deeper than poison, and that Vanessa wasn't the only one involved.
The detectives arrived sooner than I expected, 2 officers in plain clothes who introduced themselves as Detective Hall and Detective Ramirez. Their calm professionalism only made the moment feel more surreal. I sat across from them in a small consultation room as my son hovered near the door, pale and shaken. "Mrs. Monroe," Detective Hall began, "the doctor informed us of the note you received and the suspected poisoning. We need to hear the full sequence from you directly." I repeated everything again: the folded note, the warning, the glass switch, Vanessa collapsing minutes later. As I spoke, Ramirez scribbled quickly, occasionally glancing up with sharp, assessing eyes. "Do you have the note with you?" he asked. I handed it over. He examined it like it was a live grenade. "And the waitress?" Hall added. "Did you catch her name?" "No," I said, "but she seemed terrified. She didn't slip me that note on impulse. She knew something." Daniel cleared his throat from the corner. "We need to talk to her. She might be the only person who knows who did this." Ramirez nodded. "We've already requested the restaurant staff list. We'll contact everyone who worked tonight." Before any of us could say more, a nurse poked her head into the room. "Mrs. Monroe, there's someone asking to speak with you. A waitress." My stomach clenched. So did Daniel's. "Send her in," Hall instructed.
The girl who stepped into the room looked younger than I remembered, maybe early 20s, with the same nervous expression she had worn earlier that night. Her hands trembled as she clutched her apron. "Are you Charlotte Monroe?" she asked softly. "Yes," I replied. She exhaled shakily. "My name is Jenna Rhodes. I'm the one who gave you the note." Detective Hall motioned her to sit. "Miss Rhodes, you understand you're now a key witness. We need you to be completely honest." Jenna nodded, swallowing hard. "I didn't have time to explain, but when you walked into the restaurant, I recognized someone at your table." Her eyes flicked toward Daniel. "Not him, your daughter-in-law." Daniel stiffened. "Vanessa? You knew her?" Jenna nodded again. "Not personally, but 2 years ago, my grandmother died in assisted living. The staff insisted it was heart failure, caused by age, but the way she deteriorated, it didn't feel natural. She went from vibrant to confused, tired, lost. And there was a caregiver visiting her often back then, a woman named Nessa Whitfield." She paused. "That woman was your wife." Daniel's breath caught audibly. No, that's impossible. Vanessa's never worked in an assisted living facility. She's a private consultant." "She worked under a different name. I knew her face. I've spent 2 years trying to prove what happened to my grandmother." Detective Ramirez leaned forward. "Why didn't you go to the police sooner?" "I did, but no one believed me. I had suspicions, no evidence. So when I recognized her tonight sitting beside you, and when I saw her slip something into your wine when you weren't looking, I panicked. I had to warn you." My entire body went cold. Daniel looked like his chest had caved in. "My wife put something in my mother's drink?" Jenna nodded without hesitation. "Yes, and she didn't hesitate, like she'd done it before." Every molecule in the room seemed to shift. The detectives exchanged a glance that said everything. This wasn't random. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. And my daughter-in-law had hidden her past behind a new life, and a marriage to my son. But the worst part was still ahead, because the lab results they brought me the next morning revealed what had been happening to me for months and why I was never meant to make it to my 62nd birthday.
I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa lifting that wine glass with my name written all over it. I saw Jenna's terrified face. I saw Daniel breaking apart. By morning, the hospital called us back in for additional tests. A nurse guided me into a quiet exam room, speaking gently, almost cautiously, like I was walking into bad news. "Mrs. Monroe," she said, "your results are back. The doctor will speak to you shortly." Daniel squeezed my hand. "Whatever it is, Mom, we'll handle it together." But when the doctor entered with a folded report and a grave expression, I felt my stomach sink. "Mrs. Monroe," he began, "your blood work shows low, repeated exposure to several cardiac medications over the last few months." I blinked. "Exposure? What do you mean?" He laid the papers down in front of me. "The compounds we detected, digitalin, beta blockers, and a mild sedative, aren't accidental contaminants. They were administered in small, controlled doses over time." My breath left me in a cold rush. "Are you saying someone's been drugging me?" Daniel looked horrified. "Mom, have you been feeling sick lately?" The memories flooded back in a wave I wasn't ready for. The unexplained dizziness, the sudden fatigue, forgetting small things, where I placed my keys, whether I'd watered the plants, why I'd walked into a room. The nights I felt foggy after Vanessa brought me her homemade teas or soups just to help you relax. I had dismissed all of it as aging. The doctor continued, "These compounds in low doses can mimic symptoms of early dementia.
confusion, memory lapses, lethargy. Daniel's face crumbled. Oh God, that's exactly what Vanessa kept telling me. She said you were declining. I felt like the ground was tilting. She told me the same thing, I whispered. She made me believe I was losing my mind. Detective Hall arrived minutes later, updated with the newest information. He pulled out a notebook and sat across from us. Mrs. Monroe, we need to ask you directly. Has your daughter-in-law been bringing you food, drinks, or supplements regularly? Yes, I said. She started visiting more often around the time I began feeling unwell. Always with some new herbal tea, vitamin drink, soup, something. Hall nodded slowly. That matches what we're seeing. This wasn't an impulsive act. This was a slow, deliberate conditioning. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. Conditioning? For what? The detective's voice turned firm. To make your mother appear mentally incompetent, to isolate her, to make her dependent, and ultimately, his expression hardened, to make her death look natural. Daniel's head snapped up. Why? Why would she do that? Hall didn't sugarcoat it. Money, control, opportunity. We've seen cases like this before. I felt sick, but Vanessa wasn't in my will. Daniel went very still. He didn't speak. Daniel? I asked. He swallowed hard. Mom, there's something I didn't tell you. A few weeks ago, Vanessa brought some papers to your house. You were groggy, out of it. She told me you wanted to sign them. My pulse pounded. What papers? He looked broken when he answered. A medical directive, a limited power of attorney, and an amendment to your will, making you my sole decision maker and transferring certain assets if you were ever declared unfit. My mouth fell open. Daniel, I don't remember signing anything. His voice cracked. Because she drugged you, Mom. She made you look confused so you wouldn't question what you were signing. Detective Ogg closed his notebook. This confirms her pattern. She wasn't just trying to poison you last night. She had been setting the stage for months. Your death would have looked like a tragic but expected decline. The room felt smaller suddenly, airless, suffocating. My daughter-in-law hadn't tried to kill me on impulse. She had calculated my exit, piece by piece. But just when I thought I understood the full horror of her plan, the detectives uncovered something darker. Vanessa had done this before, and she wasn't working alone.
Vanessa regained consciousness 4 days later. The hospital called us early that morning, asking us to come in for a supervised conversation. I wasn't ready, but I also knew I'd never truly breathe again until I faced her myself. When Daniel and I entered her room, she was sitting upright, pale but alert, her hair tied back in a loose knot. She smiled at Daniel first, soft, trembling, familiar. Then her eyes slid to me, and something in the room shifted. "Charlotte," she breathed. "Thank God you're safe." Her voice was gentle, too gentle, the same voice she used when bringing me healing herbal teas. Detective Hall was already in the room, leaning against the wall. "Mrs. Whitfield," he said, using the last name she thought no one knew, "we're giving you a chance to speak openly. You might want to tell the truth while you still have the opportunity." Vanessa's face twitched, a crack in the mask. "Whitfield?" Daniel repeated. "That isn't your name." She inhaled sharply, then exhaled with a shaky laugh. "That was a long time ago. It doesn't matter." "It matters," I said. My voice surprised even me. Steady, calm, carved in stone. "Because that's the name you used when you worked at an assisted living center. The same place Jenna Rhodes' grandmother died under suspicious circumstances." The softness vanished from her face. "Ah," she murmured. So the little waitress finally talked. Daniel stepped forward. "Vanessa, what did you do to my mom?" Her expression changed. No guilt, no shame, just irritation, like she was tired of pretending. "She was going to decline eventually. People her age always do. I was preparing you for reality, for responsibility, for our future. Our future. Daniel's voice cracked. By poisoning my mother? She rolled her eyes. You're acting like I tortured her. I made it subtle, gentle, a progressive decline so no one would question it. You would have been in control of everything. It was meant to be painless, practical. I felt a chill crawl across my skin. Painless? You stole months of my life. You made me doubt my mind. Vanessa's jaw tightened. You were in the way, Charlotte. You have resources, property, savings, and no spouse, no partner, no one but Daniel. What did you expect? To live forever? People like you cling to independence even as your bodies fall apart. Daniel's face was red with fury. You're unbelievable. No, she said calmly. I'm realistic. Detective Hall stepped forward. Mrs. Whitfield, everything you've just admitted is being recorded. Your actions toward Mrs. Monroe and multiple elderly victims before her constitute premeditated, attempted murder. For the first time, true fear flickered in her eyes. Wait, she began, but it was too late. Her truth was out. Vanessa's trial lasted weeks. The evidence, poisoning patterns, falsified documents, her alternate identity, buried her deeper than any testimony could. Jenna testified bravely about her grandmother. I shared my experiences, my confusion, my fear, and Daniel, with a trembling voice, explained how manipulation had wrapped itself around their marriage like barbed wire. The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment, no parole. When the verdict came down, I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I simply felt free. 6 months later, that freedom feels real. I moved to a quiet lakeside neighborhood where mornings begin with birdsong instead of fear. I take gardening classes, join community walks, and speak at senior centers about recognizing subtle signs of elder abuse. People hug me afterward, grateful that someone found the courage to talk about the things families often overlook. Daniel and I rebuilt our relationship, layer by layer, conversation by conversation. He's healing too. Guilt is heavy, but love is heavier. And he's chosen love every day. And Jana? She's finishing her nursing degree. We meet for coffee every week. She says she wants to specialize in elder care because people need protectors. People need someone who pays attention. In her grandmother's honor and mine, she'll be that someone. Sometimes, late at night, I still think of the letter Vanessa sent from prison, self-pitying, unapologetic, delusional. I didn't keep it. I burned it. Watching the flames swallow her words felt like reclaiming every stolen piece of myself. Now, when I wake up each morning, I choose peace. And I choose to keep telling my story, not as a victim, but as proof that even when darkness comes from inside your own family, you can still find a way back to light.